All right, let's just dive right in. If you've spent any time online lately, I'm sure you've seen it. It feels like everywhere you look, athletes, celebrities, maybe even your next-door neighbor, they're all jumping into ice-cold water. Deliberate cold water immersion. I mean, it's just exploded.
But what's really going on here? You got to ask yourself, is this just the latest wellness trend that's going to fade away? Or is there some real science behind all the shivering? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. What actually happens to your body and your brain when you decide to get shockingly cold on purpose? You know, this whole thing isn't exactly brand new. Cold therapy actually has roots way back in ancient Nordic cultures. But let's be real, its huge modern comeback has been supercharged by people like Wim Hof, the Iceman, and neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman. They're the ones really connecting this intense practice to some serious hard data. So, let's get right into it. What happens in that exact moment your body hits that freezing water? Well, it all kicks off with a really primal, deep-seated survival mechanism. It's called the cold shock response, and it is exactly what it sounds like. The second water below about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 15.5 Celsius, touches your skin, your body's fight-or-flight command center, the sympathetic nervous system, basically slams the big red panic button. And believe me, that response is instant and it is intense. You know that feeling, that involuntary gasp for air, your breathing gets all fast and shallow, and your heart rate and blood pressure just shoot through the roof? That's your body going into full-on emergency mode, doing everything it can to protect your vital organs from what it thinks is a life-threatening situation. And that gasp reflex, that's a big deal. It's exactly why it's so critical to ease in and never just dunk your head right away.
But okay, that physical shock, that's only one piece of the puzzle. What's happening up in your brain is arguably even more dramatic. And this is where the practice transforms from just a brutal physical challenge into an incredible tool for your mind.
Now check this out, because it's fascinating how much the temperature actually matters. At a moderately cool 20 degrees Celsius, your metabolic rate nearly doubles. Pretty good. But drop it down to a properly cold 14 degrees Celsius, and boom, you get a massive 350% jump in metabolism. But honestly, the metabolism part isn't even the craziest thing on here. Look over at those biochemical markers. That's where the real story is.
Yeah, you are reading that right. That is not a typo. A 530% increase in norepinephrine. I mean, wow. This stuff is basically your brain's secret sauce for focus, for vigilance, for paying attention. And this massive, long-lasting surge is exactly why people report feeling so incredibly sharp and mentally clear for hours after a plunge. And then there's this, a 250% increase in dopamine, the molecule that drives motivation and mood. Now here's the crucial part. This is not like the cheap, quick dopamine hit you get from your phone or a sugary snack. That stuff comes and goes in a flash. This is different. It's a gradual, steady rise that lasts for hours, basically giving your whole motivation and well-being system a healthy reset. So what happens when you mix all these powerful brain chemicals together? You get something pretty profound. By intentionally putting yourself into this stressful state, and then learning to control your breathing and stay calm through it, you are literally training the thinking part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, to be the boss of your primal panicky stress responses. It's what scientists call building top-down control. Okay, so the mental benefits are clear. They're huge. But what about the most common reason people get into cold plunges in the first place, for athletic recovery? Well, this is where things get a little complicated. In fact, we run into a major contradiction. So on the one hand, yes, cold water immersion is fantastic for reducing that next day muscle soreness and helping you bounce back faster between events. It does this by lowering inflammation. But, and this is a huge but, here's the catch. That same inflammation it crushes is actually a necessary signal for your muscles to grow. So by jumping into an ice bath right after a workout, you can actually shut down the very signals that tell your muscles to repair and get stronger.
So does that mean you have to choose between recovery and gains? Not exactly. The research points to a pretty simple solution. It's all about strategic timing. The key is to wait at least 4 to 6 hours after your resistance training. This gives your body enough time for those crucial muscle-building signals to do their job before you use the cold to flush the system out.
And that brings us to maybe the most important part of this whole explainer: how to approach this practice safely and effectively. Because as beneficial as it can be, let's be super clear, it is not without some serious risks.
And I want to be perfectly clear about this. That initial cold shock response puts an immense strain on your heart. So if you have any pre-existing heart conditions, high blood pressure, circulatory issues like Raynaud's, or any of the other conditions you see here, you should not be doing this. Full stop. If you have any doubts at all, please talk to a doctor first.
Now, for those of you interested in the metabolic benefits, like activating that energy-burning brown fat, there's a specific protocol called the Sobrick Principle. And the idea is actually really simple. When you get out of the cold, just let your body rewarm itself. Don't immediately grab a towel or jump into a hot shower. That shivering you do, that's your body working hard. And that's what maximizes the metabolic demand and all the benefits that come with it. So if you're looking for a simple, safe way to start, Dr. Huberman's protocol is an excellent guideline. Forget trying to stay in for 20 minutes. Just aim for a grand total of 11 minutes for the entire week. You can break that up into 2, 3, or 4 short sessions. The key is to pick a temperature that is uncomfortably cold. You should want to get out, but safe enough that you can stay in. And the most important rule of all, never, ever, ever do it alone.
And this quote just brilliantly captures the real power of this practice. It's not just about the cold. It's about choosing to do something hard. It's a form of stress inoculation, really. It teaches your brain and your body that you can handle discomfort, that you can stay calm, even when you're in the middle of a storm. So, whether you ever step foot into an ice bath or not, the core lesson of the cold plunge really applies to all of us. The science shows that leaning into voluntary challenges builds a more resilient mind. And that really just leaves us with a final question to consider. What is the one hard thing you can do today to build your resilience for tomorrow?